Okay, hello everyone. Zilot here with another podcast episode number 6. And today guest is Samurai. Welcome on in, Samurai. Hope you're doing good. And by the way, I just want to mention this guy has 13,000 hours in year two. So, and I'm actually quite excited that we will talk about, and so he can actually share with us what drives him still to play this game. So I want to greet you once again. Tell me, how are you doing on this great day?
Doing beautiful, beautiful. It's a great morning, just living life, being able to enjoy the journey of Neo and reaching a certain amount of hours, enjoying the community that Neo has built and continuing on with their legacy and the gameplay.
Nice, great. So tell me one thing. When did you start Neo? How you heard about it, and how you fell in love with that game?
See, the thing is, I never heard about Neo. I actually had to not recently, but roughly around 2020. Uh, just randomly went to GameStop one day looking for a new drive, something new gameplay, some Japanese based, some type of mythology, just anything that would drive my passion for gaming. I just remember walking in and just scanning pre-owned games, and there it was right there on the shelf. I asked, the GameStop rep, what was it about? He told me it was a Souls game, Japanese based, and it was just the thing I was looking for. Um, I was 3 years late because I remember it dropped in 2017, like 21 days before my birthday. But around this time, I really wasn't doing so hot. More family based. Looking for a path. I didn't know if I wanted to continue gaming. Um, my love for Neo since then has developed in such a high spirit. It was just a lot of great things that came with the game as far as combat style, the flow, what I was looking for as far as gameplay, the toughness of the bosses, being able to experience this with other people as far as multiplayer and, studying up on the game.
That's actually amazing. That's actually amazing. Yeah, I think I wasn't that late on party, but I started my Neo. Yeah, that was 2018 on PC release. That's when I started Neo 1 journey, like a complete noob playing and beating whole game in a mid stance until I met the other people and members of community. So could you tell me more about? So okay, you played Neo 1 and Neo 2, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so which one do you prefer more and why?
That's a very hard question because you could take from different aspects as far as Neo 1, Neo 2. I think the biggest aspect of Neo 1, which I fell in love with, was that the main character William was based off of a historical guy that actually had went over to Japan, and that was a great introduction to Neo. Uh, Neo 2, they allowed character creation and being able to build your own, being able to look how you want to look. But I think I was more driven towards Neo 1 for the historic viewpoint.
Okay, that's actually nice. I mean, I did not expect that answer, but yeah, I mean, that's great. I would say, yeah, Neo 1 is great in terms of like, so to say, raw combat, but Neo 2 has a huge extension on it, especially like Soul Core's Wall, another layer of things that you can do, which is like quite good, like with exception with this, of the certain things like we all know dojo bosses, for instance, and so on and so on. But yeah, definitely, I do agree on that one. Tell me another thing. So, did anybody inspire you to get better in the game? How did you get better in the game? Why? When that happened? Did you have a difficult time when you actually played back then, or just overall, like how you went through that progress, so to say, from being complete beginner to some advanced level and reaching all these hours that I have just mentioned on the beginning of this podcast?
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a difficult journey. I think what inspired me was the Japanese part aspect of it, but the combat flow and being able to switch stances, like I really didn't understand this when I first came to the game. So it was like, you have your light attacks, your heavy attacks, being able to switch stances from, top, mid, low. But there was people that, helped me I wouldn't say like they helped me directly, but through YouTube videos, I remember just watching Poofer Llama and him being able to explain like what your choice of weapon it is, and how it will benefit you in certain fights. I remember watching Poir Gaming, him and his fights. Who else was a few people I watched? I watched Fighting Cowboy. I watched Afro Sinju for a while, but I think the greatest part of it was being able to go very in depth with how you want to build your character. Like just taking from special effects, armor bonuses, weapon bonuses, your accessory bonuses, and what they would do to benefit you in a fight. I think it was just the journey itself that was more of like a time lapse because I wasn't so introduced to being able to go into a Dark Souls game at the very beginning and level one, in Neo 1 when you first get off the boat, and next thing you know you're fighting, level very low level like Ronin, undead Ronin, and then one tapping you. I think that set it off for me right there. It was such like an inspiring moment for me because when you play certain games, they usually like, oh, okay, we're just gonna set you off at a normal difficulty. That's just usually how the game starts off. And for Neo, I think, like I said, getting off that boat and going over there thinking I'm doing something, and the next thing you know, I get one shot by a pickaxe, and I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna take a lot of studying, a lot of watching, a lot of like building, grinding, investing certain hours into this time period to be able to learn this game officially. Because I didn't know like how to do the dodging at first. I didn't know like blocking took stamina and like all that. So it was an amazing journey. But yeah, those were like the main people I usually watch. And then I got introduced to the Neo community, and I remember just seeing people like posting their builds, posting gameplay. I'm like, how are you guys doing this? And just asking little specific questions. I remember when I first watched your live stream on Twitch and watched some of your stuff on YouTube and be like, this guy is amazing. Like he's really putting in the time of this, and he's explaining, breakdown and how to beat these bosses, what's the best builds, which weapons you should go for depending on your play style. So I just think that was the hurdle I had to overcome. Because, like I said, I played a lot of Koei Tecmo games, a lot of Team Ninja games, and my main series at the time was Dynasty Warriors. So there really wasn't no like in depth building. So I think that was really what set it off for me.
Actually, that's quite amazing. And yeah, thank you very much. I'm actually glad that I could inspire people and help because that was my aim ever since I started actually my, so to say, career with streaming. Because not a lot of people appreciate or recognize the true capability of Nioh 2. And as you mentioned, Nioh 2 combat is just amazing itself, and like the way that you can interact with it. I mean, the only amount of hours that you spend in game saying that, like you are not playing MMO game where you need to grind. You are playing single player game, and you still got 13,000 hours, which means like the game has something to keep you there and offer you, which is really really great. And to mention, like, speaking of the guides and stuff, yeah, I would also mention the, I don't know if you watched, but you probably did, Sacred Force, or Last to Load on YouTube.
I
He
watched
also
Sacred
had a,
Force.
yeah, he had also had a lot of great build, a lot of great techs, pardon me. So he did a lot of good stuff, especially evasion cancels and stuff like that. That's one of the things like that I enjoy. I think, yeah, I did stream, yes, was it, yeah, yesterday I did stream Nioh 2. And every time, like, I keep up playing that game, and I'm more than glad to help people. And as you said, there is no difficulty slider there. You just get there and you gotta get good.
Yeah, I
So
think you
go ahead, go
guys
ahead.
are really the OGs when it comes to the community. Like you, Sacred Force, Poir Gaming, Poofer Llama, Afro Sinju. Um, who else could I really
PSG.
like?
PSG
Yeah,
Spawn.
yeah, Fight Cowboy. Y'all guys are really the
Yeah.
OGs that really started it on the YouTube scene and then bringing it over to the Twitch scene. It was like, man, I was like, this is exactly what I was looking for in difficulty because I got done beating so many easy games at high difficulty, and just to come over to something refreshing and be able to die, it just it made the game so much more better for me.
Okay. Another thing that I wanted to ask you, tell me, what was the point where you have seen the huge improvement, and actually what did you do in order to improve yourself? Like, did you limit yourself somehow? Did you restrict yourself somehow in order to get better, or perhaps you've been just watching other people playing and then picking up and building up your own, so to say, play style?
I think as far as that question, you, I think the very first video I watched of you, you were fighting. Who was it? Let me think. I just give me 1 second. It was a boss that you were fighting that I was like stuck on for the longest period of time, and I couldn't overcome this boss with like the life of me. And who was it?
Was
It
it
was
Neo?
yeah, Nioh one, Nioh one.
Uh-huh.
It was Juragumo.
Ah, Spider, Eurogumo,
Yeah,
yeah.
I couldn't overcome this boss for the life of me. And I was like, man, this boss is like literally like destroying me. Like I just tried everything in my life, and then I just remember you doing like your combo cancels and your dodges, and I'm like, oh, so this is how this works. So I was studying up on like how you were building your character, and I was like, okay, so like right now, Neo one, the top weapon of the time, and I'm pretty sure it's still of the time, was Odachi. And I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
okay, this is a great weapon, but I don't know how where I should put my skill points into as far as like, should I have more attack? Should I have more defense? Should I have more stamina for long lasting dodges? Uh, Timing my dodges correctly, because I know blocking in Neo 1 2 is a very very crucial thing, a very crucial point, and a very like good skill to have. And I just couldn't understand it without sacrificing so much stamina. So I remember watching that fight, and I was like, okay, so he's blocking and dodging at the same time, but he's dodging in like 0.2 seconds to get that little bit of dodge window, and attacking the behind of Juragumo. I'm like, okay, this is gonna work. I was like, is there anything else I could take from this? I remember you using sloth, and I was like, what does this talisman do? Like, I couldn't understand the talisman
I
until I
don't
really studied
remember I
up
ever
on
used lot. I think I never used lot
somebody
in anyone. Uh,
somebody's sloth, and I'm just like, ugh. I was like, so what does this do? And I just remember just seeing Juragumo go into like very, very slow motion. I'm like,
I
oh,
never
okay.
used lot. In Neo 1, I don't have it upgraded. Neo 2, neither. So I never used it actually in my gameplay. I don't know, maybe you watched somebody similar who used it, but I never did
Yeah,
use it.
it could have been somebody similar, but I just remember just watching talismans because I didn't really understand like the you know talisman system, the Omnio system, and all like that. And then obviously you had your ninja abilities, and it just took a lot for me to really like dive into studying different builds because I really wasn't set on a specific weapon. It was like whatever made me stronger at the time, I just equipped it. And I was like, okay, this is good, but I'm still dying super fast. So obviously, there's something I'm lacking as far as like, is it like the timing of the boss? Is it still my equipment? Is it I'm not using the correct skills? Like just those aspects, and watching so many different people posting their builds and how they were dealing with certain bosses at certain times is what really made me level up. It was the whole like in-depth uh, character building and equipment building is what made me level up. And I just think, like I said, I got to give it to you OGs for, posting so many videos because, a lot of us beginner Neo players or people that came to the game late wouldn't really understand the game as far as the concept and what it was going for. Unless you were originally a Souls player, then you really couldn't take anything from it. But each Souls game is different. Each combat system is different, equipment different, abilities different. So it's just like I just really had to study, and that's what made me level up.
Nice, great. To mention and point out a few things there, when you talk about Yorugumo, usually, I mean, game Neo as Neo doesn't so to say, make a good job in explaining things, unfortunately. And then you have to discover a bunch of things on your own, or perhaps just seen from the others. And that was also same in my case. But for instance, Yorogumo and that particular mission is like you have certain so to call them, big spider nests, and if you destroy all of them, none of the shields on Yoroguma legs will be there, because when she has these so to say shield on her legs, every time you try to hit with a low or mid stance attack, with exception of the Odachi and axe, your attack is going to be deflected, so to say, like, and then it's kind of, they just bounce off. It's annoying, it's quite obnoxious, and then you gotta actually focus her back, and then at the beginning when she has that armor, she usually try to cover her back, because her back is a weak spot which you should hit. And she was also, yeah, I believe quite weak on earth, and I really believe also wind. But overall, like, yeah, one of the really nice bosses. Like, I think that's the first when they introduce you with clans after you beat that boss. But overall, yeah, that was actually great boss, and yeah, mechanics and everything that was present there was actually quite nice. And yeah, speaking of blocking, that's another thing that I wanted to point up and mention, is the in the Neo one, timely guard works much better than in Neo 2. I mean, in Neo 2 it doesn't work at all, unfortunately. So in Neo 1, there was basically a time frame when you press your block, and let's say instead of 40 key, only 4 key would be consumed. That only and only works in Neo 1. In Neo 2, that doesn't work anymore. I think that's either glitched or they removed it on purpose, but I believe that's something. I mean, a lot of things are actually changed in Neo 2, or, I would say, like, probably something happened and that doesn't work anymore. But that used to be really, really, really good thing in Neo 1, because you could block any boss attack, and if you block it in a exact time manner or an exact timing, you would consume a ridiculous amount of ki. Not to mention that not much many people know. I mean, you do know, but many new people do not even know about buffs in a low, mid, high stance. Like, low stance is basically free dodge, so basically not consuming key on next dodge. Mid stance is free block, so basically next incoming attack will not consume your key at all, and high stance increasing your attack power, which is also another thing. And the game haven't told you that at all on the beginning. Like, Neo doesn't say anything at all. You basically have to figure out yourself that. But yeah, overall, that's absolutely, I understand. I mean,
I think
the
Neo ones and Neo 2's beginning tutorial was a little bit lackluster. I think they could have really been more in depth on like certain
yeah,
things as far as like combat stances and stuff like that. I think I remember when I first pre-ordered Neo 2, they really just like, okay, you're in the interim now. You're gonna decide which weapon that you want to use. And me, I've been in the Neo community for so long. It was like, man, it was very hard to like switch from Tri Sword. I think me
yeah,
and Spawn are like the very few that use Tri Sword like over and over and over again. So it was like, man, what can I do to these bosses that will actually be sufficient for me to get off a lot of abilities? But it was just great. Like I stuck with Trisword for like what, maybe 7,000 something hours, and then I was like, okay, I need to switch it up because I need just the benefit of being able to do a little bit more and being able in and out of combat. And I'm not saying the Trisword is not a great weapon because obviously you had a lot of skills that like went towards EI draw, and I remember playing Neo 1, and that was like the build. And then like later on when they brought the depths, he's like everybody was using Odachi, and that became the build because that had an EI draw. Now I was like, man, it's like I was like, man, I don't know how they're gonna nerf this build or buff this build in any type of way, but when you got skills like that powerful and they could do a lot of damage and there's a lot of like special effects and armor effects that benefit this one build, it's like, man, it's kind of hard to leave.
I understand. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, so another thing that I actually wanted to ask you is, do you prefer more Abyss from Neo 1, or Depths and Underworld from Neo 2? What are your thoughts on that?
Hmm. I would say personally, I'm not sure if anybody else would agree with me, but I think Depths gave me a run for my money. It was a little bit more challenging because there was so many more levels. There's 1,000 levels in Depths, and there was like what 108 in Underworld. with the plus, plus levels they brought later on. But I think personally, I think it was depths for me that really, captivated me because I love fighting bosses. Like I love fighting mobs too. I like fighting, the smaller yokai and stuff like that. But I think the bosses make you lock in so much more because they got so many one-shot kill moves.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
you
Especially on
just
high
have to,
floors.
yeah, you just have to learn the bosses. When you learn the bosses, it pretty much becomes like automatic. You know exactly what they're gonna do. You know how many frames it's gonna be. You know, if they decide to switch. After just doing it repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly over and over again. I just think it, like I said, it becomes automatic, and you
Yeah.
start wired to how the boss is
Especially
going to
especially when you die on a third boss and you need to fight all three
Yeah.
bosses from the beginning. Yeah. Absolutely. That means I gotta learn this shit, otherwise I'm screwed.
And like the
Yeah.
story, the story is good. The story is good for like your introduction to the boss, and you don't really take anything from that because like your entire goal for that is just to beat the boss so you can move on. But then like when you get into the depths or you get in the underworld, the boss has so much more development, plus the buffs. Plus, if you're limiting yourself to like certain weapons or certain armor or certain abilities, like all that takes a very long play. So you have to be very like articulate in how you want to play as a person.
And I would say also I do agree with you, and I prefer more near to Underworld plus depth than Abyss. I mean, Abyss was fun, but it was too much floors, and like I think every boss fight from the floor 300 and above was pretty much the same thing. Like basically, you reach so to say cap in a terms of difficulty. I think until level 200 or 300, and after that it just been same. Like up, like it doesn't make sense. Like 999 and the floor 999 actually is insane when you need to fight Sanada and Masamune. I have to admit these two motherfuckers are obnoxious to fight. Like no matter how good you know them, they always act differently. The AI always act differently, unfortunately, when they are in a group fight. But yeah,
Yeah, I think
that's
for like I said, I love the abyss levels. I think they put. I'm not sure if anybody else felt this, but when I started getting into fighting like double bosses or triple bosses, I honestly think that they put certain bosses together because they correlated well as far as skills wise.
they definitely did. I definitely agree. You're right. They definitely did because Masamune and Sanada, yeah, they can really cooperate very nicely. Like you're focusing on Sanada, and then Masamune is just behind you, charging his swords and actually kicking your ass. Absolutely amazing way to cooperate. I mean, but yeah, they did it. They did it on purpose. I think they made it on purpose because they want their games to be difficult and they want people to suffer, and that's it. Like, and yeah, I mean, there is
I
no
definitely suffered.
everybody did. Like I remember Pim, for instance, he actually promised and he played naked floor 999 in Abyss. Dude, that was actually one shot mania because no whatever hit him, he has no HP. Basically, he's naked. No armor. You're dead, man. I mean, only thing that you have strong is weapon. I mean, that was actually yeah ridiculous, but at the same time quite nice and enjoyable. I would say amount of content.
So
Another,
for
mm,
you, I think
yeah,
my question for you is like,
yeah.
I know everybody probably asked you this in the podcast, but who was the most difficult bosses for you to fight?
What Neo one or Neo two?
Neo one.
Neo one. Huh. I mean, it's at this very point. I don't even know. I think I can just say. I can just mention the bosses and point the bosses that are bullshit, like Yamato no Orochi, that goddamn fucking Hydra with the fucking 9 heads and which is obnoxious. But I don't know. Like Kelly is not that bad. He's actually quite easy, but he used to be difficult probably on the beginning. I honestly, that's a really good question. That I at this point I don't know what to say. Like who's difficult? And Toyotomi again is bullshit. Like he does a lot of bullshit. He's not difficult. I mean, then Nine Tail Fox. It's actually Nine Tail Fox is not that difficult. She has just garbage hitboxes, but like she's quite easy. Especially even I remember in Abyss when I actually encountered her first time in Abyss on a higher floors. I think I was stuck for maybe 2 or 3 streams on fighting Nine Tail. But I remember ever since then every next time I met her, I kicked the shit out of her because I found a way and I learned how to, hit boxes and drop boxes from her works because they were really, really off, like absolutely off. Basically, you stand on the side and then you get kicked. But absolutely, to answer that question, I don't know. Like I can just say perhaps that bosses that are difficult, that are doing bullshit, so to say, I can associate them with some sort of difficulty because I have a problem, cannot beat them just like that. But I don't know. I would say, like, at this very point in Neo 1, I think all of them are quite easy. Probably because Yamato Norochi is the boss that I haven't fought that often. I just fought it once and never again. That's the reason why. But I can state out that the bosses that I most enjoyed: Sanada, Masamune, Mysterious Samurai, amazing, amazing human boss fights, like absolutely, like, outstanding fights. When it's get to the yokai fights, I mean, there are a bunch of yokais that are really nice. So one of them, yeah, Onryoki I don't even consider the boss because Onryoki is just like, dummy that you fight through wall playthrough like over and over and over and over again. Okay, yeah, there is another bullshit boss when we just mentioned the skull guy. Hold on, what was the name of that guy? Ugh. When you need to purify the crystals and you need to fight big skull guy. Holy god, I forgot the name. It's on the tip of my tongue.
It's
Ah,
been that long.
yeah, but I mean, like just crazy. Like one of the nice bosses that I personally enjoyed was Lilith. What was that Lilith mission? And what was the name of the boss with a big claws? Holy, I just can't remember right now the name of her. Holy moly, damn! But she was one of the nice bosses. Quite annoying, I would say, when she starts spamming these claw attacks. But uh, actually, once you learn her, she's really, really, really nice. But I'm
I think
trying,
the
like,
the boss you're trying to remember, that was the skull guy. It was Gasha Dokoro, I think it was.
yeah, Gasha Dokuro. Yeah, that horseshit boss. That's horrible
I
boss.
think
Like,
the most difficult bosses for me personally, especially because I was trying to get like certain skills and you had to beat these bosses at like a certain period of time, was Oda Nobunaga. He was difficult when I first came to him. What was it? Yagyu Seshi, what, Seki Kushai, if I'm not mistaken, that's how you pronounce it. And then for dual swords, because I want the EI draw so bad for dual swords, was Ashikaga Yoshituru.
oh yeah, yeah, you're right. So okay, to get back on the bosses, and Ogress is the boss. I just remember. So let me take a look on a list, and I'll tell you. Yeah, right away. Uh, okay, Maria was interesting fight, but we never actually had chance to fight in the main mission except just one mission. Enma is a really nice enemy. The biggest trash of the enemy, I have to call it that way. It's a great centipede. Like this period, nobody can prove me opposite because that boss is just horrible and doesn't even. I don't know why it's even actually added in Nioh. Yukiona is another amazing boss fight. I love Giant
Fiona was
Toad,
a beautiful boss fight,
White
but I hated
Tiger.
fighting her and Nobunaga together.
Yeah, yeah, Nobunaga can be annoying. Yeah, and actually that mission was quite challenging when you need to fight Lord Nobunaga and Yukiona. That's that. Yeah, and yeah, that is Shigezane. Yokai. Human version it's just horrible, but in Abyss. But I'm talking about the Yokai version. That DLC one. That was
Okay.
something amazing, man. Or Onmoraki is another example of shit enemy. Not gonna lie, but for me that's a shit enemy. That big elephant, chicken. I don't even know what creature that is. But yeah,
I think bosses that they could have made more difficult was Onryoki for sure.
yeah. I think it's
Wh-
already enough difficult because usually people who play Souls they get in Neo and they think they should play Neo and Souls and then they actually roll in the high stance and they don't even know the use of the high stance. They just heard high stance giving me higher attack. Yes, but if you actually heard properly or actually read somewhere,
you
it's only
sacrificed so a lot.
yeah, you sacrifice a lot, and actually, the only thing that is increased in terms of damage is actually strong and quick attacks and skills across all stances. They have same damage, so pretty much he's not benefiting from high stance, and especially of the recovery time after roll. High stance has its own usages, of course, but actually Nioh is not meant to be played as Souls. And I have seen so many people, I'm a Souls veteran, I spent so many hours in Souls, and then
I've seen that too for so long, and then they had that. I think it was a YouTube video or a Reddit post where everybody kept saying that if the Souls players come over to Neo, it's gonna be easy. And then I kept seeing Souls players post YouTube videos getting absolutely destroyed.
yeah, and that much of like being veteran. So another question that I wanted to ask you as well was, which DLC did you like most from Neo 2? One, two, or three?
Hmm.
You don't need to state out like why, and just which one you liked most, because usually I ask everybody that. I'm quite curious.
I think personally, I liked the Darkness in the Capital.
No, that's the second DLC. Yeah.
Yeah, I think personally that DLC was immaculate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was actually nice. Boss fight Raiko was quite nice, and other bosses and a giant toad bro with his actually with his skills and moveset. It's actually quite nice. And
And
the
I'm
go
pretty
ahead.
sure for that one you needed that DLC to get the corresponding soul cores from who was it? Tsuchigumo, the lightning god of Yomi, the white tiger, if I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
mistaken,
yeah, yeah,
Giant
exactly.
Toad, Sasha, and Oburoguro.
Yeah, yeah, you actually had to do it. That's true. Another thing. I mean, that's always the question that I usually ask, but is probably, would you like to see Neo 3? And do you think will they ever make Neo 3?
What I like seeing, I'd fucking love to see a DL3. I'm not even gonna lie.
Okay,
uh,
as I thought
I,
so. Like, yeah, I said, like when they announced Neo 3, I'll make one
I will for
24-hour
sure
stream.
have
Yeah.
it on pre-order.
Yeah, exactly. I would do it right away. I would do it right away without even thinking and without everything.
For sure, me too. I just think for Neo 3, I think the one thing I want to see them add, um, combat is great. I want to see them add stance combat.
Mm-hmm.
Like not just like a high stance, mid stance, low stance, but I want them to add like specific like stances like okay, we all knew the EI draw as a
Something like a
skill.
Ronin, Rise of
Yeah,
the
like
Ronin has.
yeah, something like Rise of the Runner has where you could have individual stances that had individual skill sets,
Yeah,
individual move sets.
I
Like
agree.
I'd
I
love
agree.
to see them add that. But
Yeah,
everything else was top notch. Like the grind all the way from Neo 1 to Neo 2, everything just fit so perfectly and it made it so surreal that I would redo it over again.
yeah. That's. I also agree on that. What you stated. Believe it or not, we just reached 33 minutes. I'm saying time is always fine when we have fun, and this was really fun. It was actually quite great, and it was my pleasure to actually invite you and talk with you, and so you could share your thoughts about Neo. And I believe in some of the incoming future podcasts we could make another one regarding to perhaps either again Neo or maybe other Team Ninja games. But as I said, we will see that in time. Uh, Before everything, I would like to thank you once again for joining me today. And yeah,
Like,
that
thank you for
was
inviting me.
yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. So yeah, guys, this was another podcast video, and I'll see you in another. Take care.